link to the open space in Kinopio, so anyone can come in, and I encourage you all to come in and take notes and add GIFs, whatever you want.
Okay, so let's go to why are we doing it?
Yeah, so I've been slowly taking some notes, but definitely feel free to add a lot more.
Yeah, perfect. But I feel like, oh my god, I'm used to. So I think the first question we can answer as a group together is why are we doing Kinopio? Why are we creating Kinopio? I should say, why have you created Kinopio?
So yeah, in general, I'm really interested to see what you guys say because I'm very close to it, obviously. But I can tell you sort of the origin story, which is a lot more humble than maybe you might imagine. But so basically, I used to work at a company called Glitch, where I was like kind of the co-creator, and we built like a web development tool. And I was a designer and engineer there. And a lot of times I'd write specs and mock-ups, to get buy-in on what we should build next. And I found I was using SketchUp at the time, which is very similar to Figma. I was using the text tool to like write notes in the margins or outside the artboards of mock-ups for like, why am I doing this, and like what does this mock-up need to do, what are the goals, etc. And I found kind of over time I'd be like before I'd write a document or whatever, I'd also just use the text tool in Figma and just put words wherever I wanted, and I kind of figured kind of like a little bit of a designery superpower that even people don't even think to do, but actually feels a lot more freeing than writing on starting with this blank page in this linear document. And then I just started building, and like for me the first step was what is the easiest way to get text on a page. And it's not clicking a toolbar, looking for the sticky note tool and dragging it. It's clicking where you want it and then typing. And everything sort of evolved from there. I wanted to connect ideas together, and the easiest way to connect two ideas together is to drag from one to the other. And that was kind of the primitive that, the whole thing with Kinopio was built upon. Back then, there were things like thinking tools and second brain and mind mapping. I didn't know any of those existed. And I just kind of built in that direction, though, on kind of independently coming from a different place. So that's from my angle of why I'm doing it. And I guess like the higher level thing is, I think we can kind of get to better insights, like either by ourselves for our own problems, but also like in a team context when we kind of fully understand the context around, like what are the factors in the decision, and like how am I feeling about that, and not feeling like I've got the perfect structure before I get my thoughts down, just getting whatever I want out and then figuring it out. To me, feels like it leads to, I guess, better decisions, or feeling better and having more fun while doing that.
Does anyone else want to follow up on that? I mean, for me, that's really exciting to hear. Like, even the whole story feels like so actually core to the brand. Like, if you think about it, like, we have, I'm just going to ad-lib, but what I saw is like these structures and these boxes and like kind of feeling forced to conform, and then like what that story gave me was feeling freed from that in a really creative and fun way, but still being able to participate in that structured environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with time, it stopped being just about putting your thoughts out in like a random context, because the users started to like calculate really their choices and pay a lot of attention into how the design and how they look like, and use them as journals or mood boards, and more in a different context and just like brainstorming or ideation and so on. So yeah, I don't know how we want to incorporate that, but if there was like this organic development, right, with Kinopio as well, where users can just adapt it to whatever needs whatever they want to express. And the magic and like the beauty of it as well, right? Like there is no prescription as to like how you should be using this tool.
Yeah, I think
I always like it, like when I use Explore and then I just see other people's space. I'm like, wow, I didn't know you could use it this way, or like it wouldn't have occurred to me. Sorry, Nikki, I cut you off.
Oh, no worries. I want to be more active, but I realize if I leave the clean shot space, it might record something entirely different, so I can't actually be on the board. But I think from what I'm hearing also, it just seems like there is this place where you have, like, it's like you don't need permission to do anything. Like, I heard, like, there's no prescription, there's no rules. And I think that's sort of like what we kind of all are here for, is kind of, maybe it's even about building, but I kind of don't want to go into the building blocks metaphor too quickly. But I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. No, go on, Liz. I would say, at the risk of going into the building blocks too early, I think it kind of, it is like such a basic primitive, like the idea of a block or a card or whatever. And yeah, I think Notion popularized the idea of starting with a unit, like a block or a card, and then making that able to transform into so many other things. Yeah, and I think it's such a great way to interact with stuff by just getting things down into blocks and changing those blocks into being whatever you want or whatever fits the idea, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I like this idea that like everyone's brain just works differently, so it really kind of it feels like it encompasses that. It honors that difference in every human being while still allowing them to communicate and express with each other, like by sharing their boards or bringing people into their way of digesting and expressing information.
I actually found this out kind of related to this, that the way the human brain kind of retains information is kind of Kinopio-like. Like we're naturally primed, hunter-gatherers, whatever, to like look for spatial things and to remember, oh, the berry bush is next to the red house or the large tree, and putting things down in a spatial place and basically building your own map in your own little world.
Yeah.
Makes the information like really stick.
Yeah, that's I just read a book on that, Moonwalking with Einstein, and the way people get increase their memory is to build these memory palaces, and so as you go out, try to form a the place you remember the most is probably your house or where you grew up. So being able to attach different memories to spaces is actually how people get increased, how people are, they can memorize 52 playing cards all at once. They use the ideas of things like spatial memory to do it.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of kind of pre-formed why, which is great because that feels like it matches the vibe. But I think what would really be helpful for crystallizing at this part of the circle, the why, is to try to maybe make a 1 to 2 sentence, maybe even 3 sentences if you feel crazy, on why are we doing it? Because the why is kind of connected to the end consumer, right? You could make this for yourself. You could just make this and then you could be using it, enjoying yourself. But there's some why you want to be able to allow other people to do it. And I think it's all connected to what we expressed here. And there's a really beautiful way to write that as kind of a really good North Star that'll bleed into the how, that'll bleed into the what.
So essentially, we're kind of summarizing the points here into a single thing. Summarizing is hard.
Yeah. Why do you want to bring this into the world?
This is the hard work. It's to make it crystal clear. So for me, can I just throw some?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, spatial, that was really important. This is what I'm taking away as so please don't take this as anything but my suggestion. And then also, it being actually naturally how the human brain works, and us being free from the linear and from the structure by that. Those were the three things that I felt like really everyone was passionate about. And I'd agree.
So the why we do it, or let's see. I guess for me it's about, like, I think I consider myself a tool maker and kind of a toy maker, like a little bit of a bit of both. And it's kind of like, I think of it in opposition to, your linear Word doc or whatever. And I think, these advantages, spatial, how the brain works free from the structure, they lead to better outcomes for both individuals and organizations. And so for the highest level disruptive why for me is to change, I guess, the outcomes of how people reach a consensus, or I guess the process by which people reach consensus, or and make decisions, and kind of be able to communicate the what we should do, but also have that be connected to the why we're doing it. But I guess that gets a little far away from the how the brain works and stuff. That's like a higher level thing, possibly.
No, I actually think that's perfect. You can add in that's how our brain works. That's
right.
How our brain thing, right? That can be like a little tagline underneath. But I think how you just crystallized it was really good.
Okay, what did I say?
I haven't, I used my phone to also record a voice memo, so that's why I don't have my headphones in. So maybe we can do, if it didn't record audio, it'll be able to sync.
Okay, cool. I'll just write down for now what I recall saying, but continue.
Hey guys, I have a question. I joined late, but I just wanted to check. Open to input from
everyone.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I just wanted to voice one thing, in the why are we doing, why are we using Kinopio, right? Mm-hmm. For me, one of the things is, I don't have a directly tangible thing, like very succinct, but it's nothing like Kinopio exists, and it serves an instinctive thing. Even when I don't use it as much as I want to, I know that there are things I've only been able to kind of think out when existing in the Kinopio user interface. It helps slow down my thoughts in a way, get things out and organized in a way that textual stuff. I use a lot of different outliners, right? The Roam Research, Obsidian, Kana type stuff, Notion, whatever. But those things, when I put something down, it all flattens. Even if you're using H1, H2, H3 for headings, even if you're using formatting stuff. And then there's another website I really like, MMM Page, but MMM Page isn't, it's for website creation, and I don't find that that is a very good place for thinking out loud. And why for me, Kinopio allows me to digitally think out loud in a way that feels as close to an analog of the rich way that I can when thinking tactily, right? So anyway, long.
Hey.
No, yep. Sorry.
No, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, just on the summarizing, I think, just wanted to quickly add, I feel like to tie all this together, what it sounds like is that Kinopio is, how when you use a lot of apps, and then the app forces you to kind of become their ideal user, you should behave like this, you should work like this, right? Whereas what everyone's saying here is about freedom, is about honoring, how your brain works, right? So there's somehow about, it's not an app that's trying to change its user, it's an app trying to, empower, or it's genuinely human-centered, even though that's an overused word, is what it looks like. It's becoming, it's organic, trying to be as organic to how a human functions as possible, and possibilities of just
I don't know, it's like, you know how Uniqlo and Muji try to design clothes that works for everybody? So I just try to become the app that tries to respect and honor you and your workflow and how your brain works and things. And if someone has a better summarizing word for that, yes. Thank you. Sorry for disrupting.
No, that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
No, that was
I think
not a
it's-
disruption.
I think that's definitely kind of connected to the idea of it working like our brains work. When I hear working like our brains work, like it feels a little sciencey, which is great. I think that lends a lot of like credit to things. But I also like your phrasing of it being like organic and honoring, you know, kind of your intent. I think that also fits really well. And also to your point, Juan, about, you know, like MMN is a great tool. And it is optimized for website design, and it makes me think every time I use it that there is this kind of fine line and difference between making something to present yourself really well, like primarily, and then primarily to like think. And Kinopio is weird just because people use it for both, but I think the thing that it's primarily designed for is what really sets the tone there.
Yeah, I like the idea of thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I want to jump in and share maybe like a couple of sentences. I think people have already expressed what I think of Kinopio mostly. But I think on a more, I guess, on a day-to-day level, a lot of times I notice that Kinopio really helps with sort of like the cognitive and executive functioning of my brain. Like those are the two words I latch onto. I'm autistic, I have ADHD, and I think regular tools are not assistive. In fact, they're overwhelming. They don't help me keep track of things. And like we said, it's really just fitting into how our own brain works. And I think that's the pure joy of exploring a tool like this, to really be like a companion of sorts. It's like my second brain now when I use it that way.
Or is it your first brain?
It's interesting because, yeah, like, second brain is, as a term, has been, I guess, co-opted, let's say, to mean something very different. But with your description of it, it does sound like second brain is the right word to use there.
Yeah.
Or first brain. But this kind of, yeah, companion for daily life. Yeah, that's a great kind of way to think of second brain, I think.
I think a lot of these tools as like prosthetic knowledge and prosthetic tools. But what's kind of crazy with some of the stuff is it's a prosthetic that allows us to do new things, as opposed to like a prosthetic that like gets someone to like a normalized expectation, like whether it's like traditional human walking.
In the songwriting camp, they teach you to treat songwriting as two different things. The first part is brainstorming, which is what Kinopio and Scaffold does. The other mind mapping tools don't do. The other part is editing. So once you've got a bunch of ideas down, you want to prune them and join them up in different ways after the fact. If you try to do both at once, you get into more trouble, and it stops your flow of brainstorming and thinking.
Totally. I think there's I feel like our culture is very, like, we've developed this productivity culture where we kind of want to get to like the end place really quickly, and so like a lot of people get drawn to like you must like take notes this way, you must like, they must be organized from the get-go, you must have all these tags in place, because if not, where are you going to find it? You're going to like miss out, like you're going to have to store this in a place where it's easily retrieved. And I think we've actually veered very far into that world. And again, I think this is honoring the process by which is important to creating something new, which I think is very messy, kind of chaotic, and yeah, kind of giving space for that.
And with the Kinopio brand, like returning to like this idea of like why it's like reflects as a tool the plasticity of thought. And plasticity is like the sculptural, but like the malleability of thought. When we really think about thought, like you can share it. It's like thoughts can be composed, shared. Like I don't know.
The Play-Doh for your mind.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to move us to.
Yeah, it's a big
we got excited about the why, which is great. Okay. So we definitely have so much for the why that is amazing. I just want to check in. Is everyone having fun?
I am.
Because having fun is the best way to create everything. That is my belief.
Oh my god, that's literally the how.
Is that the how? Let's go into how. So we have a lot of like why we're doing it, but let's go into now something that should be an easier question because we already have kind of like how it's happening. How are we delivering Kinopio? How is Kinopio being delivered?
When I hear delivered from my tech brain, I think it's an app on the web. You can use it on every device, but I feel like you need something better than that.
Yeah, I think that's more the what.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How is, what would be a good example? I feel like a good example was like a dog store someone gave one time, and it was like, the why was because they wanted to make their dogs and owners have like beautiful and healthy experiences with each other, and the how was having online and IRL experiences, creating like healthy treats. Hold on, let me find the actual example so I don't lead everyone astray.
Dog reference, nice.
I love dogs. Let me not say we. Everyone's different. Yeah, so the how for this pet store was to deliver a really easy to understand in-store and online experience, to be a meeting point of friends with their pets, and to create products with a lot of personality. So that was the how. And then to differentiate from the what, then the what was making clothes for dogs and cats and accessories like collars, drinking cups. So it's like a little more literal. So what do we think the how is?
Cute.
So, yeah, it sounds like I've heard like a lot of people use Kinopio, like, or they first start using Kinopio because they are drawn to the aesthetic, like you mentioned, cute, Nikki.
Yeah.
Which wasn't my goal. It seems to be everything I create, people say it's cute, but whatever, I'm cool with it now. So that might be a big part of it, like the personality of it, however you choose to define it. I think that's definitely something that stands apart when you look at other tools in the productivity space or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I think I was listening, and I think we brought this up last time too, is, like I think it feels like while, a lot of products, they chase for the metrics and like, oh, how many users like spend time here a day. There's this other like school of thought where it's like software can optimize for like making people happy or making people want to spend time here. Optimizing for happiness or something, and creating a space for that to happen.
Yeah, happiness and joy are definitely things that I think about when I design.
Yeah. Like maybe it's like a playground almost even.
And it's really easy. Like one of the hows is like ease. Like a little strange in today's like digital ecosystem of like tools, because usually there's like login screens and you like go multiple pages type of thing. Whereas like Kinopio always feels like it's like present, and like I had to learn the navigation of my different spaces or whatever. But like once I learned it, it was easy enough. But like it's only that it's different that I hadn't learned, but it was already initially easy to do the core thing of thinking out loud. Like I'm already in a space doing stuff like from the get-go, whether and then if I like see someone else's space, I'm like it's easy to just already be in the thick of it. There's no like navigational folder hierarchy fluff that I need to navigate. It's just so it's very easy in that sense.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of something Nikki, I think it was Nikki who told me, like, oh, at first I thought it was hard to use because I was looking for like a card icon before I could add a card. Maybe it wasn't Nikki, but I remember hearing that feedback from someone.
Oh, you mean like you have to create the card before you like?
Yeah. That was like the expectation from Miro.
Yeah.
I think there's also.
Go ahead.
No, please go. Finish.
No, go.
I was just saying, like, there's also a big part about permission. Like, there's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of permission. It's like, there's no intended use. And I'm someone who, like, I wasn't drawn to the Kinopio aesthetics, but then I realized, oh, I have permission to change that. Like, it doesn't have to look like very fun. Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm using it the wrong way if I want it to look very proper and like all these other apps, but I don't have to.
And I think last time we maybe touched on this, or 2 weeks ago, is like it feels like sometimes, and that's okay, kind of to feel like crumpled, like a piece of paper that you can crumple and like throw away. Like not every Kinopio board has to be saved, and therefore you can create many of them, because as you're creating as you're forming new ideas, these are just like places where you put things in, and you can crumple them up and then that's the first draft and you never have to look at that again, but it helps at least get something out onto a piece of paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of speaks to this kind of shareability, because like a Kinopio board from the outside is like a URL that I'm gonna send to somebody, and I need to make sure that they have access to like add stuff if I want them to, or not do stuff. But like that's on the board itself. But like the how is feeling like it's this extremely shareable scratch pad, like hypermedia scratch pad type thing.
Ooh. I like that. Oh, it's kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
I like that.
But it doesn't feel like a cork board. I mean, it doesn't. You know, it can get to the conspiracy theory cork board feeling and some.
Oh.
But the real magic with Kinopio to me is like, and this is the first time that I do this like socially, where it's like multiple people in a single board, or space or whatever it's called. Like, I don't know. It feels like a terrarium too. Like, it's alive, it's moving around, but like, it's not a whiteboard, you know.
What does a whiteboard kind of mean to you? Or what you associate with the term?
Work.
Yeah.
I kind of like what I got from that whiteboard visual that you gave me was like, I don't know, like those intense Notion docs, like those Google docs that like you kind of have to put on the like normal brain for to then parse through, and then you're exhausted by. And I like totally relate. I mean, Nikki sends me Kinopios for like brainstorming all the time, and you kind of forget, like, it's exhausting to be like, okay, wait, okay, header, table of contents, okay, I need to figure out exactly what this means. Whereas like with this form, you immediately know you don't have to do that, and you can like play through this nonlinear form to understand where this person's mind was when they put all of this stuff together.
Mhm. Yeah, it's almost like a fun exploration rather than, going for some complex document and trying to understand. Just like a different way to learn, and I guess this is also amazing to look at like how Kinopio is being used by the School of Applied Computation. Their class notes, which there's almost like no difference between, you don't know who is the teacher and who are the students, because the class notes are just like so dispersed and everyone is just adding their ideas or thoughts, and it's almost changing the way like learning happens in this particular context. So it's like a very specific use case, but yeah, it's very specific.
Yeah, that's a really cool use case.
Okay, just so we have time, let's go to the what now, which should be the easiest. What exists? It is here. It is not theory.
So the what and the how sound like there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, kind of the how is like the energy behind the what it actually comes to. What's the form of it? What is the product? So all those technical things that your brain went to for the how, you can start putting them there. I think.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess what first. But things that aren't technical, like the unique personality and all the rest of that, that would also be the characteristics of the brand.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we should be filling in the pink box actually. But we can do whatever we want.
The what?
We can do whatever we want.
The what? Oh, right. I
Yeah.
am filling in the wrong box. Okay. The what?
Maybe you're in the right box.
I stopped reading.
We're building what first? Mm-hmm.
Avery.
What are we? I think I wonder where this would fit in, but I think also the interactions here are pretty different, I think there's something really unique to Kinopio's interactions on the web. We take it for granted. You're kind of highlighting the boxes, moving them around, connecting them. I wonder if that can be sort of kind of pulled out a little bit too.
Pull down in terms of
Yeah, just described out. But I'm trying to see where it would fit in.
I forgot, but one of the reasons that it is sort of web first and available on device, and also that it kind of shaped the design, is I noticed in meetings that you'd have a leader, and this kind of goes back to the School of Computation example that Ola gave, but you'd have a leader or teacher, and then everybody would be, and that leader or teacher would be on the biggest device or the computer, and other people would either be on computers or phones in more of a read capacity and with occasional quips. And I wanted something that kind of flattened that interaction model where people felt more invited to collaborate, without having to do it the quote unquote right way.
I would write that in the how.
How? All right.
That. That's great. Flatten the relationship or the hierarchy.
Hopefully it's not only flattening that for people when they're using it together. So I use Kumu a lot, and then Kumu has a very strong hierarchy. You can nest things inside of a circle, and there's hierarchy. But on Kinopio, it feels like my thoughts are allowed to not have hierarchy. It just depends on what angle I look at it at. Everything is vomited on the same page. No one is more important than the other, which is an unusual experience for me. It's like my thoughts are now 2D. There is no inherent like one is, yeah, there's no hierarchy, period. It's not just within people, but also within my thoughts when I revisit them later.
I want to add to that experience, and I've noticed that, you know, in conversations with people, very rarely, if any, you know, unless we're like super close friends, people allow for stream of consciousness kind of exchanges. And there's few spaces for us to have that unless you're journaling every day, like free form journaling. But you know, everything everywhere emphasizes on, oh, you have like 1 minute to make your point. You have one slide, one message. You know, there's that kind of attention is, you know, limited, and you have to make the most of it. So you have to pick your information, and I feel like that's why that hierarchy exists outside. But here is really just going, I can look at all my thoughts. I don't have to choose if I don't want to. It's really nice.
Yeah, there's a kind of like invitation of non-preciousness for thought that invites the stream of consciousness, but then also in the social dynamic, it's like it opens up, like, I'll contribute something, because like all of these things being equal, it's just another block. It's not like the top block. Obviously, like here when we have like the underlying box spaces, like that suggests a direction of organization. But what's nice is like it's not fixed, right? They're not stuck in there, and they could be in multiple. Well, they you know could quite literally be overlap. And like there isn't that one-to-one relationship between where something is and what that means, but it's not one-to-one, but it's kind of like suggestive. So like there's this like gray area between how representational spatial relationships are and how they're not. They can be super like meaningful, like super semantic-y, but like they don't have to be, and instead like the connectors can be the semantic part, but sometimes not. So like it's in terms of like the what, it's like it's just like kind of like open communication protocol. I don't know, like it like
with like a fancy ass word like, I don't know, dynamic polycognition sound appropriate?
Don't sound fancy.
Well, and I think it's one of the things, and I think one of the how are we doing it is maybe even personal to you, Perijan, is you're kind of building everything in public too. And I think part of how you're building the company reflects in the thought process of like how you use Kinopio to do it, right? You let people see your like messy like planning and road mapping and all of that stuff. And I think, you know, that can definitely somehow relate to like kind of maybe what pulls people in too, right? I think we talked about the explore, like how other people are using it. You kind of get inspired by what kind of boards people are building, how they're using it. And I think the sense of like community also is like a reason people like stay with companies and like, you know, put their dollar to support companies is also that. It's like the community, the vibe, and like what we're doing here, for example.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it's kind of like designing an ecosystem, like all the pieces feed into each other. And for me, like as a designer, like when a thing can do multiple jobs, like show you the spaces that are new, but also like give you a reason to come back, for example, or give you a feeling that other people are creating with you. Like I like when a design element does multiple things, and that kind of leads to this whole idea of creating like the product as an ecosystem. And and sharing things and having, you know, like Kinopio really great for sharing, and the messiness of that and the messiness of the product in a sense. I think I like when things do multiple things, I guess. It's just my thing.
Okay. I'm gonna put my teacher hat on and ask if everyone's having fun.
Yes.
Is it fun? Is it fun? Okay. And so let's move to, we're not going to have as much time, but I think like the good work was really done here, where I think there's a lot here to like pare down and simplify, because the work of like the branding identity and understanding is just to be able to have this North Star to go look at. You know, whenever you feel lost, whenever decisions come up, whenever you're like, should I do that or do this? Like, you always want to have this clear brand identity, because if you're not clear, it's not going to be clear to the end user either, you know? So this is all there. It just needs to be like Marie Kondoed a little bit. And let's go to what are great characteristics of the Kinopio brand.
So this is, I guess this section is what I felt maybe overlaps a lot with the points that we made and how we were doing it. You know, the black preciousness and the free-form nature of it, and the collaborative aspect, and the aesthetic. That's my point.
I co-sign.
I guess it might be an easy section to go on to unless we have a new point to add here too.
No, I think.
No, yeah. Let's move. Let's move on.
Move.
Cool.
Not so great.
Well, I guess from my perspective, so I kind of built my feature like for we have templates, and I used to show them more and show them less. Like I was going to go back and forth on it, and you know, like I kind of see both sides to it. Like it is kind of even if it's not like a Word style blank page, when you create a new document in Kinopio, you do have essentially a blank slate, and I think a lot of people can be turned off not having enough structure. So the kind of benefit of structure, like low structure, is also kind of downside for some people.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure how to, like, whether do I double down on that? Do I emphasize templates more? Like it's that's one of those things that I struggle with.
You know, like what was talked about just now, the whole normal brain versus, I guess, Kinopio-tized brain. I guess it's like, I think if you come into Kinopio with a mindset with all the energies of the house and whys that's listed on the map, people don't feel so afraid. It's only when you come into Kinopio with your normal brain on, then you kind of be like, oh my god, why is this not like anything else? All of the knowledge I have about Miro and Notion, none of that works here, then you want to look for a template. But if you come in here with like I'm entering a playground, I'm not supposed to have any rules, I have permission to do, this is like the digital scratch pad that I can throw away and do whatever the heck I want and warm up to that. I think people will stop wanting the template. It's just really like what mindset you have when you step into this space.
I love that. Maybe you could even do like an animation where before you do anything, you have to like put your normal brain aside, or like put your Kinopio hat on, like literally as an animation.
I was about to say, I think that's, you don't have to change the vibe. Like, it's just about when the person walks through the door, setting the expectation appropriately. You know, so sometimes people when they come in, they're not ready, so they're like, oh my god, that's crazy. But if you do something like Nikki suggested, or even a prompt that says like, welcome to this playground where the normal brain, like whatever, ceases to exist here, people are going to be like, oh, okay, you know, and read that message and be like, okay, the way I do things normally is not how it's going to be here, and then they might feel more invited into the space.
I also kind of thought of... No, go on.
Remind of something on Asana, like when it's loading, it'll be like loading unicorns.
Although that's really not what I think of Asana. They really tried there. They really tried.
when it just when it could be a word, it doesn't have to be like a fancy. Here is a 30-second meditation video to get into your.
Yeah, Asana should have owned being like, you know, they're like put your like normal brain on and
No,
structure.
It should be unloading normal brain. It shouldn't be loading. It should be unloading.
Yeah.
I'll have to make a loading state. Yeah. But when I think of introducing like a brand and people's mindset, I almost think of like the things that happen before you even enter or walk into the store or walk through the door. You know, when I think of brands, people come to them with an expectation, not necessarily by other brands, but by the brand themselves, either through marketing or whatever, where people are like, oh, I associate myself with this positive aspect. Therefore, I want to shop at Patagonia or whatever. Yeah, and so I mean, going back to the idea of me disliking things that do two things, I'm really drawn to the idea of marketing that does two things in the sense of promoting Kinopio, but also like really promoting the idea of turn your normal brain off to use this kind of thing.
Being unconventional or something.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And the second thing I would like to add, I guess, like around, you know, okay, it's not, coming from this not so great characteristics, but we kind of like shifted towards, like, I guess, discoverability and how people get to know the product, the tool. Because to me, like it's not even about templates necessarily. Like if we just a better flashed out the explore section, so it kind of becomes like a community hub in a way, so people can like discover more spaces that are like tagged or categorized or however we want to do it. But I feel like because I haven't discovered the explore section until very late in like using I don't know, I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wish there was a button where it's like, I'm feeling lucky today, and like I can just like, you know, like pull the like thing and just find a random page.
And that explore almost changes the experience of a user because, you know, they are not alone anymore in this tool, and so I just feel like
oh no, I think I cut off. Sorry, recording. What happens?
I sort of kind of related thought. It's like, you know, there's so many hidden gems in the tools that you've built over time that it's hard for me to know everything that you've built in. So sometimes when I discover something, it's a moment of delight. But I also noticed that there's a little bit of a tension. I don't know what else to call it. You know, like the freedom of choice in how you built, you know, the tools, giving me all these options, gives me like maximalism energy. But then when I enter, and you know, like the sleekness of the simplicity of the thought process into how this works so intuitively is so minimalistic that I feel like they're at odds with each other in some ways sometimes. I don't think it's a very strong tension, but that's something I've noticed. It's like, which way are we going to go?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time, like when you open a card and then you see that little arrow button to like show the other options, I struggled with what to show, what to hide, for similar reasons. Because when Kinopio was, you know, a newer product, it was very streamlined around the idea of like, these are the thinking things. But then very soon after, people were like, but I also want to customize it. And the customization kind of feeds into thinking for a lot of people. You know, the idea of like recognizing spaces and tying spaces to memory. Yeah, and it just kind of grew, and there definitely is a tension there. I think the way I kind of try and revisit the UI to make it as unbad as possible, but also knowing that, you know, it's a lot of options right now, and I don't plan to keep adding options to it like until it, you know, gets even longer. Because you know, in theory, when you have like a hamburger menu or a thing that's nested, a lot of apps use that as permission for, hey, every great idea, even if we're not sure about it, we'll just add it here. But I'd rather be more thoughtful about it and really resist adding new things. Because I think the current feature set, in terms of buttons and, you know, things you can toggle, is pretty solid for its core job of thinking and expressing yourself. I don't want to make it worse than it is.
I will have to run soon. I wonder if it's worth just thinking about it and then maybe revisiting like a part 2 like in a few weeks.
I like the idea of a part 2. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
definitely run pretty long. Makes sense that people have to bounce. So yeah, we can definitely do that. With the audio video recording, Nikki, do you want to like if it works, just send it to me? Or
Yeah, I'll throw it over to you. We might need to do some like syncing, but we'll see. We'll see what I got.
Okay.
We have
You let me know if
we
you-
have to 52 minutes of something.
Yeah, out there. All right. Great.
Well, thank you, Missy, and thank you everyone for participating. That was really fun.
It was. Thank you all.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.